Hello dear students, welcome back. This is a 2 marks question from GATE 2016 exam. They've given you this program, you need to determine its output. So let us start executing it. Now you should know execution will begin from calling of main function. This function is called, hence you have to push a activation record corresponding to the main function. Okay. Now first line in this function says count 3. That means call one more function that is named count. So this function calls one more function. That means activation record corresponding to new function is also pushed. That is corresponding to the function count. So we are passing 3. This function passes a value 3 to this function. So inside this, there will be some parameter to catch the value. Okay. That means n will catch the value 3. So n is equal to 3 is declared inside activation record because n is local to count. Okay. Now first line in this function count says static int d is equal to 1. That means declare a variable that is named d and initialize it with the value 1. Now see, d will not be declared on the stack because d is static. Static variables are declared separately. The reason for doing so is because d is static and we want to maintain the value of static variables throughout the execution of the program. See, once this function ends, you have to delete this activation record. This will be popped. Hence, n will be deleted. N is a local variable, so we will erase its value. But even after ending of the function, we will maintain whatever is the value of d. Okay. And in subsequent calls, that same value will be used. Okay. Anyways, now let's see what is going to happen in next line. We have written printf n. So this function wants to print n. What is n? N is 3. 3 will be printed. In next line, you have written printf d. So this function wants to print d. But inside this activation record, there is no d. That means now you have to look in data section. You can find a variable d. So whatever its value is currently printed. That is 1. So 1 is printed. In next line, you have written d++. Similarly, first you will look here. There is no variable d. Then look here. Yeah, there is a variable d. Increment it. So d now becomes 2. Then you have written if n is greater than 1, call the function count, pass n minus 1. So 3 is greater than 1. That means this condition is true. So this function will be called. Now this function calls one more function and passes 3 minus 1. So n inside new function will get 3 minus 1, that is 2. Okay. Now have a look. This function called a function here. Okay. At line number j, there is a function call. Now when this new function ends, you have to return back here only and you will resume from line next to line number j. Okay. So I'm writing j just to remember that. Now let's talk about the new function. Inside new function, you have written static int d is equal to 1. But already d is declared. So don't declare it once again. Don't change this value. Use the value as it is because it is a static variable. So we can say this line will be skipped. Then printf n. This function wants to print n. What is n? N is 2 for this function. So 2 will be printed. Then printf d. This function wants to print d. But there is no d inside this activation record. So look in data section. Yeah, there is a d and it will be printed. It is 2. So 2 is printed. Then d++. D will be made 3. Okay. Then if n is greater than 1, call a function count and pass n minus 1. So inside this, n is 2. 2 is greater than 1. So condition is true. That means activation record will be pushed for new function. For this function that is called right now. Okay. And we are passing 2 minus 1, which is equal to 1. So this n will get 1. From here you are passing 1. Okay. Now see, whenever this function ends, you will come back to the calling function only and you will resume from here only. That means from line next to line number j. So I'm writing j just to remember this. Okay. Now see, let's talk about this new function. Inside this function, this line will be executed, but it is trying to declare a static variable which already exists. Okay. So this line will be skipped. It will not be declared once again. Then printf %dn. That means this function wants to print whatever is the value of n. For this function, n is 1. Okay. Then printf d. You cannot find any d here. Then look in data section. So you can find a d, it will be printed. Then d++. Similarly, you cannot find any d here. So you will look in data section, you will find a d, and then you will increment it to 4. Then you have written if n is greater than 1. Inside this, n is not greater than 1, n is actually 1. So the condition is false. Okay, that means this line has to be skipped. You will execute last line. Printf d. What is d? D is 4. 4 is printed. Now see, this function skipped this line or this function call. And so instead of calling one more function, it will end. See, it has executed last line. This bracket means function has ended. So because this function has ended, this activation record will be popped. So like this. Okay, so this is popped. Now you have to come back to the calling function and resume from this line. That is from here. So this function call is now completed. You called a function, it executed completely. That means this line is completely executed. Go to the next line. It says printf d. This function wants to print d. You cannot find any d here. So look in data section. We have a d and its value is 4. So this function prints 4. Now this function executed last line. That means this function has also ended. So delete it. Okay. Its activation record is popped. Now you will come back to its calling function and you have to resume from here. That means this line. So it says printf d. This function will also not find any d in its activation record. So you will look in data section and hence you are going to print this variable. Okay. This also ends. Now you will return back to the main function, and in main function we have already executed last line, and this bracket means main function is also ended. So this activation record will also be popped, and hence the entire program will be completely executed. So program has ended, and this is the output. So answer to this question is 3 1 2 2 1 3 4 4 4. Okay.